In this video, I'm going to talk about how self-esteem and self-care are related. Self-esteem is a measure of how much you value yourself. Self-care is the extent to which you treat yourself as a valued person. We do not treat things that we don't care about with good care, and this goes for ourselves as well as for things. Self-esteem often comes from how we feel others see us, where self-image is based on how we see ourselves. The important thing is there really is no facts involved in this. This is how we feel or how we see. In some cases, we depend on how we feel others see us. Some other cases, we have our self-image, which is simply how we see ourselves. And either one of those is terribly biased and has no fact and basis. However, this is how this works. And by the way, my name is Dale Anderson. If you like my content, go down below and subscribe to my channel. Self-esteem and self-care are related. Self-esteem is a measure of how much you value yourself. Self-care can be the extent to which you treat yourself as a valued person. As a result, it makes sense that the two would be related. The importance of self-esteem has long been touted by the psychologists. The healthful benefits of self-care are only recently being explained by doctors. Self-care can be a reflection of self-esteem. People with low self-esteem may not think to engage in self-care. We do not treat things that we don't care about with good care, and this goes for ourselves as well as things. This can become a cycle in which a lack of self-esteem leads to a lack of self-care. With the lack of self-care, the individual takes up other unhealthy habits, which can lead to poor health and possibly poor self-esteem. The best way to get out of this trap is for the individual to become convinced that they are worthy of care. Hi, at this time, I want you to consider going down below and leaving a comment. Now, if your comment requires a response, I'll be glad to do that. So do that now. Thank you. Well, self-care necessarily comes from the self. Self-esteem often comes from being cared for by others. If you struggle with self-esteem, focus on your positive relationships to learn to value yourself as others value you. If you know someone who struggles with self-esteem, you may be able to help them to care for themselves by letting them know that you care for them. Self-importance can prevent self-care. The interesting thing about that connection is that it doesn't necessarily go the other way around. That is to say that people with high self-esteem don't always engage in high levels of self-care. Some people who see themselves as valuable people are frugal people, who would rather spend their money and their time doing things that they see is more important than self-care. In some ways, self-care is part of self-esteem, but self-care is more than just an expression of self-care. Self-care doesn't only serve some feel-good psychological need, it also helps to reduce stress, which can have a very real and physical impact. Even people who value themselves highly should engage in periodic self-care. Click on the confidencecommando.com link in the description block below, and I will send you new and updated information as well as inspirational materials to your inbox. You may unsubscribe at any time, so there is no further obligation. Self-care is expensive, right? Unfortunately, not all the connections between self-esteem and self-care are entirely psychological. This is the result of a common misconception about self-care, that it is expensive. Many people in entry-level and non-specialized jobs are more likely to have problems with self-esteem. They are also less likely than people in more prestigious and higher paying positions to have a great deal of expendable income. Because self-care is often translated to meaning treating yourself with expensive goods and services, many people who would benefit from greater self-care don't bother because they believe that self-care necessarily costs money. Self-care doesn't have to mean spending money on nice things. It can simply mean making time to do things that you enjoy, like taking a walk, reading a book, or watching an episode of a program that you enjoy. If you do want self-care to involve cash, consider contributing small amounts of money over time to a treat yourself fund with a dedicated purpose, like going to the movies or ordering out. Most of the connection between self-esteem and self-care are psychological. The fact of the matter is that self-care is important for both your mental and your physical health. Regardless of how you value yourself, you should be caring for yourself. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be relaxing. This is Dale Anderson reminding you that if you like my content in this video, to go down below and click this subscribe button. Thank you.